Hello, Just Gem here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. It's time for a long overdue new makeup releases. I didn't have one last week, so let's just get cracking, shall we? I'll start with something that I actually cut out of the last one because I was scared it was getting too long, so it's not necessarily new, but I'll just give it a quick mention. And it's the Fenty Gloss Bomb Oil Luminizing Lip Oil and Gloss. These titles are getting longer and longer. It's a lip gloss. I believe they are, I don't believe they are $26 each, which if I do the quick maths, about 20 quid. 20 quid. Yeah, £19.50, £20. I'd be curious to see what they actually go for in Boots, but that's when I've done the quick currency conversion online. These look pretty nice. I quite like Fenty lip products. I've got one or two of their lipsticks. I've got maybe 3 of the OG gloss bombs. I've got the very Fenty Glow, the OG gloss. And then I've got a couple of the others from that range, a couple of lipsticks. Oh, I've even got one of those, the triangular or hexagonal packaging. Do I still have that? If I do still have that, at this point it probably should go in the bin. I do quite like Fenty products. I mean, I think I say this a lot of times. I'm not in the market for any lip products. I've got lip products coming out my ears. Something like a lip oil, because of the skin benefits in that, I might be tempted to. I quite like something that's going to hydrate my lips. And these look quite nice, these shades. I might be tempted by something like Rose Amber, and if I wanted a hint of something more colourful, maybe the Raspberry Jams, but all the S's are Z's, or Z's for my American followers. Some of these sets that they've released are really cute, where you can get a gloss and a liner, and just a lip kit in general. Those are quite nice. Chocolate Cherries 2-piece lip set and pouch, $32. Full-size gloss bomb in Cherry Amour, full-size lip liner in Browned Out. Cherry Mouth 3-piece lip set, $49. Mini Stunner lip paint in Uncensored. That's one of the ones I've got. It's not in the shade Uncensored. I think it might be in Unbothered. Full-size lip liner in Lil Chili. And full-size lip oil in Barbados Cherry, the Chocolate Cherries one. That could be tempting. I think if I'd buy anything, it would probably be that Chocolate Cherries lip set. I'm loving a kind of liner and gloss at the moment. It's really nice, and those two pair really well, I think. No reveal, just a mention from Davini Beauty that they're going to have a palette called Mingo, contraction of flamingo. For some reason I kept reading it as mango, even though there's quite clearly a flamingo on the packaging. My mind kept saying mango. But no reveal yet, just the front cover of the packaging, no pricing details, but I thought it was worth a mention in case you're a fan of Davini Beauty and you want to keep an eye out for that. I know I'd already mentioned the American Psycho collection from Wicked Widow Beauty, but I think at that point they'd only showed the lipsticks and the blush palette. Now they've revealed the whole thing. The palette is $66 or £51. The lipsticks, $18, £14. Glosses, $16, £13. The blush duo, $36, £28. The oil shimmer, $36, £28, and there's a PR box bundle. I mean, that's already sold out. I don't know if that's going to be restocked, but that's $225 or £172 if you wanted the whole lot in a lovely presentation box. I think I might want that palette, and I think it's a really clever colour story, actually. It's good for someone who likes their neutrals, is curious about dipping into colour, but is perhaps a bit nervous, because it's got some colours in there, but they're a bit more sort of subdued. They're not your bold, bright colours. So I think it could be quite nice to kind of dip your toe in, just venture into colour a little bit. I think the colour story is perfect for the film. Like I wasn't sure what to expect. I guess I was thinking maybe in my mind it would be like a very red tone palette, just because, you know, serial killer murdering people with a chainsaw every now and again. And I guess maybe they focused the red more in like the lip products and the blush palette, for example. But I just think the eyeshadow palette is really clever. The shade names in there, I think this might be an actual yes. It's very rare I say an actual yes for this. I still buy lots of makeup. I feel like I say no to everything in these videos, but I still end up buying lots of makeup. I don't know how that happens. But this palette, and I still want that blush palette, so I'm going to be watching and waiting for these to drop on Monolith. Well played, Wicked Widow Beauty. Well played. Poppy and Fluff Cosmetics, I think this was a little while ago now. I think this might have been just after I did the last one. But they've released a Blushing Poppies blush palette, which does look pretty actually, and I think all of these are shades I would use. Maybe not Luminous. I don't know if Luminous would be something I would use, but maybe I'd probably maybe mix it. I'd use it as a mixer for some of the other shades in there. And this is pretty, but it also reminded me a lot of the Unearthly Cosmetics Spring Magic Incandescent blush palette. Just a hint. I think maybe the Unearthly one's got a bit more depth to it. Colour wise, because of that richness that the Unearthly one has, I probably would go for that one over the Poppy and Fluff one. But I have a sneaky suspicion that at £18, the Poppy and Fluff Cosmetics one is going to be more bang for your buck there. So I just thought I'd point that out so that, you know, if you were looking at that Unearthly one and you were looking for something that was similar but wouldn't break the bank, I don't know, I think this Poppy and Fluff one could work. I think it could work. I don't think I'd get it, only because I've just got so much blush. Having said that, in my last video I talked about the Westman Atelier blush duos. They're now available at Space NK and Cult Beauty. And they had a glitch. It's really frustrating actually, because they're £69 each. However, they had this glitch where a 20% promotion that's currently running was applying to those blush duos. And I thought maybe I can try one of them, but they just didn't have the one I wanted. They didn't have, I think it was Poppy and Fizz, or is it Jam and Fizz? I think I'm saying Poppy because of Poppy and Fluff, aren't I? I think it's Jam and Fizz, something like that. That's the one I wanted. And I thought I could get the other one, or maybe the other one's called Poppy and Ganache. Maybe that's why I'm thinking Poppy. I'll put the names on the screen. But anyway, they had them on, and they, even though they're new, they'd included them in a 20% off, and I was really tempted. But I was like, I don't even want to spend the 20% off price, which I think was about 50 quid for the one that I don't really want. But they've already rectified the glitch, so even when it does come into stock, the one that I want, it's not going to apply. So that's kind of annoying. Am I insane for wanting to spend the best part of £70 on a blush duo? I'm just really curious. I have more than enough blush, more than enough, but I almost want to buy it to see if I think that price tag is worth it. But anyway, that was in last video. It's not a new release anymore, so let's not dwell on that. Let's move on. Urban Decay Moondust Quad Ice Out. Is it called Ice Out? Yeah, Ice Out. And it's got, so 4 shades, you know, it's a quad, four shades. Ice Slick, Chilled Out, Bling Bling, and Moon Spun. I was trying to find pricing for this. I don't know if this is actually out because I couldn't find it. It might be one of those things where it's out in the US, but it's not out in the UK yet. This is pretty. I do like the shades in here. What I might do actually is pull out my Winter Wonderland, which I'm still yet to do. It's really bad. It's really bad. But I might pull out my Winter Wonderland and see if any of the shimmers in there would be good dupes for this. And I'm generally trying to think in my mind if there's anything that I've got that could dupe the shades in this. but this is nice. I'd be curious. I haven't bought anything from Urban Decay in a while now, but this, along with those liquid shadows that I talked about in the last new makeup releases, they're the first things from Urban Decay that have caught my eye, that have made me go, interesting. This would be something I might pick up on a sale, depending on how much it is. I don't think it's something I'd ever buy full price. If I can't dupe it with Winter Wonderland and it ever pops up on sale, then I think yes. So if money were no object, I'd say yes to this. I'd be curious, I'd want to try it out. But we're going to go back to face products momentarily, because Tarte have released a few. They've got the Maracuja Juicy Eye and Cheek palette, which is $52, which is about £39. So they've got two versions. All the eyeshadows are the same, but they've got like a light version and a deep version. 12 rosy, bronze, neutral lid lines and crease shades. Maracuja drenches skin in juicy colour, Amazonian clay for a better, truer wear. So this caught my eye just because I thought it was quite pretty, and the deep one looks like it actually is quite deep. So I thought it was worth a mention. Would I get it? Probably not, because I'm just not really a fan of multi-purpose palettes like that. Just give me a palette that's an eyeshadow palette or a blush palette. And if I decide that I want to use some of those shadows as blush, then I can. And if I want to use some of the blushes as shadows, that I can. But I don't know, I don't want someone dictating and be like, here, it's a face and eyeshadow palette. I don't know. I just don't like multi-purpose palettes like that. But this did catch my eye because I thought that there was actually some depth to the deep version. So I'm curious. And not that I'm going to buy it, but I would like to do a bit of research and see if I can find some people with a deeper skin tone using this, to see if I'm right in thinking that it is in fact something that would be suitable for a deep skin tone. And if it is, nicely done, Tarte. Now, Tarte have also released a Glow Squad Amazonian Clay palette, and it's a highlighter palette, or like a blush and highlighter palette. This one I'd be more inclined to go for because it's just blush and highlighter mixed together fine. It's cheeks. This looks really nice, and I like the depth of this. And there's 4 shades in here: Pearl, Rose Glow, Luminous Pink, and Bronze. Now, while it's called bronze, I don't think they're implying that the shade bronze is a bronzer. I think it's far too light for that, especially when you consider how deep the other shades are. So I think that this is a bronzy glow highlighter as opposed to a bronzer. And this is nice. And this is $45 or about £34. I don't know if I'd want to pay 34 quid for it. But I thought it was worth mentioning because I actually think that's really nice. Yeah, nice job, Tarte. Nice job, because they're a bit hit and miss, but those ones actually look appealing. I wouldn't buy either of them, but they caught my eye enough to stop and think they were worthy of mentioning. So yeah, nicely done. And then, speaking of palettes where it's eyeshadow plus face shades combined, Sugar Drizzle have released a palette called Bunny Love, and it's $40, about 30 quid. It's cute, bordering on tacky, if that makes sense. I think the packaging actually puts me off even more. I wouldn't buy it anyway because, as I've just said, I'm not a fan of multi-purpose palettes like this. I just prefer one or the other. The shades actually are quite appealing, and I think the highlighter and the blushes that are in there are shades that would work on my skin tone. I don't like the packaging. I don't like the packaging at all. Which is a shame, because I actually think that the palette, the layout, it's quite aesthetically pleasing, and I do like the shades actually, but I don't know, maybe if it had different packaging, would that have swayed me? I mean, you shouldn't buy a product for the packaging, but sometimes the packaging, it just kind of rounds out the experience, doesn't it? One could argue that the packaging is cute, but it's not my cup of tea. Going back again to a product that I'd mentioned in the last new makeup releases, I talked about the Green Goddess palette that was coming out from Bella Beauté Bar. They had just teased it at that point, and I thought that it would be in the same vein as Ultraviolet and Realm of Fairies, where it's very purple heavy and very blue heavy. I thought this would be very green heavy, but I wondered in what way, seeing as they've got Secret Garden, which is a very green heavy palette. So we've now seen the inside of Green Goddess, and to me, I don't know if Green Goddess is an appropriate name for this palette. Maybe Earth Goddess. To me, Earth Goddess makes sense, but I almost feel like the palette's just not green enough to warrant the name Green Goddess. That's what I think anyway. It's very pretty, and out of all three, because of the fact it's less monochromatic, I think I probably would be more inclined to get Green Goddess. But let me try Poison Garden, now I finally got it. I haven't got into it yet, just because I've got it in like a queue, basically, of palettes that I want to try. So rather than be like an impatient child and dive straight into Poison Garden, I'm trying to be sensible and do things in a bit of an order. So a demo with Poison Garden is coming up. You might not be interested. It's been out for a very long time at this point, but it is coming because I have it now. And then I don't know if it's one of those things where would I rather splurge on Secret Garden, for example, than Green Goddess? I'm not sure. But Green Goddess is $72, which is about £55. I wonder how much Monolith is selling it for. Probably a lot more than £55. £67, that's quite a big markup. But I suppose when you consider how much the postage is, I know I'm saying it's £55 with postage on, it probably is about 67 quid to be fair, so there's that. Dark Winter. Now obviously my last video I talked a little bit about Dark Winter because in the same way that I want to try Poison Garden before I buy anything else from Bella Beauté Bar, I wanted to try Blood Moon before I committed to buying Dark Winter. I saw Dark Winter, it really appealed to me. I do like the tones in there, what a surprise. And I think that's a palette I could really enjoy. But again, I wanted to try Blood Moon first and see what I thought. Dark Winter is nice, it is nice. It's not available at the moment, so I know that they had a few that were available. They went pretty much instantly, and then they had a pre-order, but that pre-order is closed. I think it will probably end up coming back, I'm not too sure. It'll be interesting to see if it does come to Monolith and how much it would be when it's on Monolith. But directly from Electrum Cosmetics, Dark Winter is $50 or £38. Now here's a brand that has already got a bit of controversy behind it. So a new brand, and it's called Chokehold Cosmetics. So I saw someone, I think did someone share the story, and I was like, oh, I've not come across this brand, Chokehold Cosmetics. And then when I clicked on it, I was like, well, that explains it. They're new, no wonder I've not heard of them. And they were teasing it, showing a few shades here and there, and then they had the full reveal. Chokehold Cosmetics, for reasons unknown, have decided to name a shade in their palette No Safe Word. Now I get it, Chokehold Cosmetics, they're clearly like leaning in on that whole BDSM thing, fine. If you really want to go down that route and you want to include a shade name in that realm, how about Safe Word? Just Safe Word. The No Safe Word bit is just a little... Yeah, it's kind of a shame really, because for a lot of people, it might not bother a lot of people, but I do think it's tone deaf. Funnily enough, it's another one of those palettes that is a face and eyeshadow palette combined, so I probably wouldn't have picked it up anyway, even if it had had appropriate names within the palette. And part of me does wonder as well, yes, they're called Chokehold Cosmetics, and like this is their first release and they've gone down that whole BDSM route. Is that what they're just gonna keep doing? Like, I wonder how thought out the brand name is. Because when I first saw it and it was called Chokehold Cosmetics, I kind of thought, oh, that's quite clever, because you know how you say like, oh, this brand has me in a chokehold, you know, you keep buying from them. And then they've released this palette. I don't know if they're gonna veer drastically after this point and it's going to go in a bit of a different direction, but I don't know if it's necessarily wise to have that theming as your first release given what your brand name is called. I feel like they might have pigeonholed themselves. It's not something I would get, but if anyone who is curious about it, the full set is $100, the palette on its own is $60. There's a red gloss which actually does look really pretty, but I think you could dupe that. I think Fenty, for example, the one I was talking about before, is a gloss pretty much exactly like that, but that gloss is $18, and then the brushes are $30. I think they've missed the mark there. I think they've probably inadvertently. I don't think it was thought through, which is kind of a real shame. I don't think it was done with any kind of, yeah. I'll leave it at that. Dominatrix Cosmetics are re-releasing they're re-releasing Nearly Natural, but they've revamped it and included more shades. So I think they had a bit of criticism about 2 shades in the original palette being a bit too close, so I know they've removed one of those, and they've expanded it. Someone I watched her video the other day and it was a really, really good breakdown. Let me find her again quickly and I'll link her channel below, because she's done a really good breakdown and comparison of the original palette versus the new palette. Kitsch Snitch, or is it Kitsch's Niche? I don't know nuances. Anyway, Kat has done a really good in-depth comparison between the two palettes. It was a really, really solid review actually. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that, so I'm going to link that below in case you have the old one and you're wondering if it's worth picking up the new one. I don't have the old one, you can't get the old one anymore, but the new one, I think I'm going to get this. I genuinely think I'm going to get this. I don't have many neutral palettes. When I saw it and I thought to myself, I want it, and I thought, don't buy another eyeshadow palette. Like, cool your jets, slow down, stop buying stuff. And I thought, but actually, what neutral palettes have you got? And I've got Nude-Trals from Cosmic Beauty. And to be fair, I do have Rich and Neutrals from Beauty Bay. The thing is, they don't have that impactful intensity, like, you know, those shimmers that you get from indie brands, and these are in this Dominatrix Cosmetics palette. I guess there's Kyma Cosmetics Bougie Boudoir. That's probably the only indie neutral palette I've got, and that's very cool toned, whereas Nearly Natural has got a bit of a mixture. So I think I'm going to get it, you know. Yeah, I think that's an actual full-on yes. Gosh, 2 actual yeses in one video. Normally I say no to everything. The pricing, I do have this down. So it's going to be 85 Australian dollars, which is about 53 American dollars. And in pounds, I imagine that's going to be 39 or 40 pounds. So given the time zone, I wonder if that's going to be released today. Maybe. I'll keep an eye out. I've got a lot of colourful eyeshadow palettes. A lot. Barely any neutral ones. So yeah, I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going to get it. And I think I'm swayed as well because I've just tried Rich Romantic and I did really like the formula. So if I hadn't have tried Rich Romantic, I probably wouldn't pick this up. Guess it's a testament to the formula in Rich Romantic, really. The Pastel Roses Sakura palette. Before I forget, actually, there is a promotion running on the Pastel Roses website for 25% off this Easter weekend. So it will still be valid when this video goes up, but for about 24 hours. It's going to end on Monday the 21st. So just in case there's anything from the brand that you wanted to pick up, now would be a good time because they've got 25% off. And I think you just use the code WEEKEND. So back to the Sakura palette. It's £32, and I don't know if it's included in this promotion. It might not be because it's a new palette, like sometimes they do that. Pastel Roses that I do want to try them again. I tried the Pumpkin Spice palette and I did like it, just disappointed in the cozy shade that's in there. And I've been keeping an eye out. I think this is the third release since the Pumpkin Spice palette that I tried, and nothing's really grabbed me. And funnily enough, I might have picked this up had I not got Rich Romantic. And it's funny because obviously I've literally just talked about that. But I'll show you the shade comparisons. Some are my swatches and some are swatches from the Pastel Roses website. So my swatches show the Rich Romantic swatches, and I'm comparing them against the swatches of the Sakura palette that are on the website. Now take this with a pinch of salt, because one of the reasons I was disappointed with the cozy shade is because it looks much deeper on the website than it did on me / in person. And I think that's probably another thing that's holding me back from getting the Sakura palette, because I'm hesitant and I'm unsure if the depth shown in those swatches is representative of the depth in real life. And I don't think I could justify getting the Sakura palette because it's basically Rich Romantic plus a shade of green. And Susie and I, we exchange, so it's Red Panda Sue on Instagram, but we exchange messages and when that new palette's out, and we kind of give each other like opinions, and she keeps me informed on palettes that are not safe for the eye. They've got pigments that if you've got sensitive eyes, you might be likely to react to them. She keeps me updated on formulas that have those ingredients in them. And she also pointed out that Vintage Neutrals looks quite similar to Sakura. And I'm not that I dislike Vintage Neutrals, but probably of all the Artitude Cosmetics palettes that I have, that's down the bottom. It's pretty, it is a pretty palette, and it's not that I dislike it, it's just not one that I'm drawn to. So it's absolutely pointless me picking up Sakura when I've got Rich Romantic, which is basically Sakura minus the green shade, and then if I really wanted that green shade, I've got that in Vintage Neutrals. So I'm still waiting to try something from the Pastel Roses, but I'm not just going to buy things willy-nilly. I want it to be something that fills some kind of gap in my collection, or like really, really draws me in. So for the time being, no. It's a no from me. Esom Cosmetics have released, now I think it's safe to call this a rainbow palette, definitely. I know it's $80. I haven't written the name of the palette. I don't know if it's got a name. Let's find out quickly. So this isn't your average rainbow. The number 5 Transform palette was engineered for pros, dreamers and bold creators with clean, talc-free pigments that blend like butter. Modern, vegan, clean, talc-free. This just looks pretty. I'd want it just because I'd want to look at it all day, to be honest. I don't know, I think I'd be too scared to use it, but it just looks pretty. And I mean, if the pigment, you've always got to take these swatches with a pinch of salt, but if the pigment is there, this is pretty impressive. And I have heard good things about Esom. Maybe they would be a brand I would try down the line. I'm kind of in this phase at the moment where I don't really want to try any new brands. I want to focus on the brands that I know and I love and I enjoy. And with the exception being, obviously, yes, I've just picked up Blood Moon from Electrum Cosmetics and Poison Garden from Bella Beauty Bar, but they are palettes that I'd wanted from last year that I've finally managed to get hold of. I don't know that I want to try any new brands right now. We'll see. There might be something from a new brand that tempts me. But this is pretty, but I genuinely think I'd be too scared to use it. I really do. $80, what's that in pounds? 60 quid. I think that's... because I think they're designed for makeup artists, and that's quite a lot of shades in there. I don't think that's unreasonably priced. 15 shades. And that could be, I mean, it's a really nice staple palette. But let's face it, I've got all these colours spread out across my collection. I don't need this, but it is really pretty. Would I if money were no object? Real life gem, no. If I won the lottery tomorrow and money was no object, yes, I would. And that's not to say, you know, if you've watched any of these before, there are things where I say no, even if money were no object, because I just think they're ridiculous. But this, if money were no object, yes, I would buy this, 100%. 100%. It'd probably be in my basket now. It'd be on its way. I'd have bought it. But real life gem would have to say no. Notoriously Morbid. Can someone explain the Notoriously Morbid like business model to me? Because I don't understand how Notoriously Morbid works. They seem to have all manner of different types of palettes. So I don't know if Notoriously Morbid is like the umbrella brand and then other brands fall within this. So this one is Spellcast Beauty. So how does Spellcast Beauty fit in with Notoriously Morbid? Is that like a sister brand? Is it underneath the umbrella? I don't really understand, because they've got all these different types of palettes in different formats. So I just find it a little bit confusing. Notoriously Morbid / Spellcast Beauty have released the Neon Garden palette, and it is $34.99. It's 8 shades, 4 mattes, 4 shimmers, and they're kind of, the shimmers correspond with the matte shades. So it's kind of a cute little palette. I don't know how many complete, or looks that I feel would be complete, I'd be able to get with this, just because there are no mattes in here with any depth. So this would be a companion palette. This, I don't think, for me anyway, it would be a companion palette. I don't think I'd be able to create something that I feel is a complete look with this. I do like the colours in here, I do, but I definitely would have to pair it with something nearly natural, perhaps. This caught my eye though, because I do really like the shades in there. When I was scrolling through, this popped out and I did like the look of it, but I don't think I'd necessarily buy it because there's not enough to it for me. I want more. I want more. I'm not in the habit of buying something knowing I'm going to have to pair it with something else. Like if I pair it with something off my own back, that's fine, but knowing that I'm going to need something else when I buy it would put me off, and that's probably why I'm put off this. This is really pretty. I do like it, and I think it's a nice colour story, but to me it's an incomplete colour story. That's what I would say. The last release I'm going to talk about is Call of the Sirens from Gourmand Girls. As soon as I saw the name of this palette, the first thing that popped into my head was, how similar is this going to be to Beauty Below? And apologies if you follow me on Instagram and you've seen my stories, because I've already talked a little bit about this, but it's a new release, so I'm going to talk about it again. So it was revealed earlier on in the week. It's available now. I'll just go through the pricing. So it's 15 shades, 6 shimmers, 9 mattes. The palette is $55.99. The face palette is $45. And then the bundle is $88. It was revealed, and yes, it is similar to Beauty Below. It's got those vibes, and I'm not surprised because they're both siren influenced, siren / mermaidy type palettes. What I will say is, as someone who's got Beauty Below, I'm not getting Call of the Sirens. To me, I don't think it's justified. That's not to say that you shouldn't buy Call of the Sirens if you've got Beauty Below, because there are some nuances. So Beauty Below is 24 shades. It's a 50-50 split between shimmers and mattes. It's a bit more grungy. It's a magnetic palette, and it's got more pinks in it. If you're after something a bit brighter / warmer, avoiding the pinks, and a more condensed colour story, because as I say, it's 15 shades as opposed to 24, then Call of the Sirens might be the one for you. Is there room for both? Quite possibly. You might see one as a bit of an extension of the other. You might think to yourself, I love Beauty Below, but I wish it was a little bit brighter, so you're going to pick up Call of the Sirens. And you might pick up Call of the Sirens and think, do you know what, I really like this, but I think I will pick up Beauty Below as well, because I like the fact that Beauty Below is magnetic. So it's going to be a personal thing. Just from Calavera, from having Calavera and from trying that, I do like Gourmand Girls and I want to try more from them. I didn't get bitten because I thought it was too similar to a few other palettes at the same time. Peach Perfect caught my eye, but it was just lacking just that hint of depth for me. I think if it had 1 or 2 deeper mattes in there, that could have swayed me to pick up Peach Perfect. This one, for me, I do quite like that it's a bit of a brighter version. If you want to say it in that way, it's a bit brighter than Beauty Below. But I just think for me, it would be excessive to have both. But that's a personal preference thing. I'm not judging you if you buy both. Sometimes I question myself when I purchase things and I'm like, but doesn't that look exactly the same? As never mind, I'm getting it anyway. So I'm not judging anyone who wants to buy both. If you want both and they will make you happy to have both, fill your boots and buy both. Okay? Lord knows I'm not in a position to pass judgment. Okay? But those are just some things worth considering. You know, if you haven't bought Beauty Below and this one has come out and now you're in a tizzy thinking, oh well, now I don't know which one to get, draw up the pros and cons. Do you prefer grungy? Do you prefer bright? Do you want the magnetic pans? Do you want more shades? Do you want something more condensed and more portable? Being magnetic, Beauty Below is a bit weightier, but having said that, the fact it's magnetic means you can take the pans out and put them into something lighter if you would prefer. So that's up to you to weigh up. If I didn't have either and they were both released at the same time, what would I go for? Beauty Below. That's what I would go for. If I had neither and I was trying to decide between the two, I think I'd go for Beauty Below because I think it's more shades. I'm still in the process of trying Beauty Below. I will be doing a what do I think now, but a bit further down the line once I've had the opportunity to kind of really try it out some more. But so far I am really enjoying that and I'm pleased with it. So, and maybe having that makes me a bit more biased towards Beauty Below, but I genuinely think if I had neither, I would be more drawn to Beauty Below. More shades, bit more bang for your buck, and it's magnetic. The brightness of Call of the Sirens does appeal to me, but there is something to be said about that grunginess of Beauty Below. So yeah. That's everything that I wanted to cover. To me, that feels a bit light for a new makeup releases. Not the last time I filmed a new makeup release and it had been 3 or 4 weeks, I had to cut out so much because I was just talking for hours. And maybe you wouldn't mind. If you were happy to have me talk for hours during these new makeup releases, let me know. But I find myself often cutting out big chunks because there's just too much. And I don't think anyone wants to hear me talk for like 2 hours about new makeup releases. If you would, let me know. I don't know, because I can happily provide that for you, but I just don't necessarily think that's entertaining past a point. But I don't know. Is there anything that I've missed that you think is glaringly obvious? Like, Gem, are you living under a rock? What about that new release from, I don't know, made by Mitchell? I mean, he's churning out stuff all the time, so I'll probably have legitimately missed something from him, to be fair. And are you thinking to yourself, why are you picking up the American Psycho palette or the not Bailey Basic, that was the one before, Nearly Natural palette from Glaminatrix? They're both rubbish. Don't know why you want them, Gem. They're terrible. Save you money. Love to hear your thoughts. What are you picking up? What have you picked up that's just come out? And what have you seen that's about to come out that you're saving your money for? As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you again in a video in a not too distant future. Take care. Bye.